Good morning, everyone. It is 9 o'clock. If you would, we'll rise for the invocation and the pledge. Our Heavenly Father, we come to you humbly this morning, and as we always do, we thank you for this wonderful place that we live in. We also ask you to give us the wisdom, the intellect, and the ability to get along as we make decisions today. We ask this all in Jesus' name. Amen.
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 I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I now call this meeting to order. If anybody has a cell phone, which most of you do, please turn them off or silence them. Or if it goes off, you can buy me lunch. That's the rule. No, you can buy lunch for the whole council.
Yeah, forget the $5.
Can't hear, he said.
Can you not hear me? Mr. Zimmer, can you hear me? Good morning, Bonnie. I'll call the quorum. Pam? Here. Gary? Here. James?
Here.
Brian?
Here.
Tony?
Here.
Tim?
Here.
Matt?
Here.
Mark?
Here.
Richard? Here. We have a quorum. At this time, we allow the public to make comments on any agenda items. Seeing none, I need a request for the approval of the June 5, 2018 TDC meeting minutes.
So moved. Second.
Can you all hear me okay? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Item number 2, financial report. Request approval of the TDC financial reports for April and May of 2018.
Turn my mic on. Good morning, Council, Chair, Commissioner, Jason Cutchall, Director of Administration. You'll see here on the first slide, in your detailed financials, you'll find highlighted numbers, and they correspond with the slides. These slides are just an overall snapshot of what you've got with your April and May monthly reports. April year-to-date with expense allocations, we're 58% through the year, and we are 39% spent in our entire budget. As the year closes, the large projects will close, and that number will get closer and closer and closer together. For the month of May, year-to-date expense allocations were 67% through the year and 49% spent year-to-date. We found the fuel miscode, and it was corrected, and it's reflected in the notes. And also, you can see the numbers change in your detailed sheet. For the next slide, that's our TDC Revenue and Reserve Report. This is a summary of the latest month, which would be May year-to-date. For FY18 actual revenue, it was at $10.241 million. That is year-to-date as of May. The anticipated revenue is $23 million. With the percentage towards that at 44.53%. Our current bed tax collection for May was $2.279 million. Retail sales year-to-date was at $47,000, which that means in May we already surpassed last year's retail sales. Our current month revenue, that would be the month of May retail sales plus the bed tax collection, was at $2.327 million. For our reserve account balance, that's as of May. First and second percentage, we're at 12.881 million. The next percentage is at 19.248, and the final is at 4.307. The 0.5% at the end is the 0.5% bed tax that we had in 2014-15 that we've still got some in reserves. So the total is 37.650 million. And again, this is a summary. You all have the detailed for April and May in your books, along with it's attached to the agenda online to be able to download. The next slide is our TDT collection history. This is our bed tax collection for FY 16, 17, and 18. Last month we reported on February and March. This meeting will report on April and May. So we discussed briefly at the end of the meeting in April. We were down because of where Easter was located, but we were down by 10.87%. In May, though, we were up by 2.78% at $2.279 million. And in June, we just got those numbers in. I recently sent out, we had a record-breaking month. We beat July of last year. July of last year was 5.1. June of this year was 5.421 million. So that was a record for bed tax collection for the month of June. So I'm looking forward to seeing what July looks like as well.
Didn't you
yes, sir.
say that was a 17% increase
Yes, that was 17.75%. Yes, sir.
for June?
For June, yes, sir, over last year. And so as the end of June, for our total, we're at 15.62 million, and that's a 10.09% increase year-to-date over last year. So it looks like it's trending to be another record year as far as bed tax collection goes and our retail sales. So barring any questions, I'd respectfully request to approve the TDC financial reports for April and May of 2018.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
How much has the rate gone up? How much does the rate increase affect those numbers? Is that more bodies or is that just higher rates?
I kind of think it's both.
I
We've had an
would
increase
agree.
in room nights and average rate.
Yes.
But I think Jim, that it's more it's more people in beds than it is rate increases.
Yes.
Everybody has a rate increase every year unless you've got a poor performing property. But I would attribute it more to heads in beds than I would to to a rate increase.
In
And
our
we-
case, we're actually flat with room nights, but we're up in rate.
Oh, okay.
It's
That's good.
opposite for us, like you guys just mentioned, we're up in occupancy and a little bit down in rate. Maybe they got, but you know, the market is so big, I mean, we're just one piece, you are two and you are two, but you know, maybe Philip can shed more light on that.
Absolutely. And collectively together too, there's more places to stay now than there was last year. So that too is an impactful, especially.
I think
quote-unquote
did we have
area.
about a 1,000 unit increase?
We're over the past year and a half to 2 years, we've seen about 1,000 room increase. What I can do at the next meeting though, I'll take all those trends together and put them on a slide and take as far back as I could create and kind of show you the increase in rooms. If you guys would like to see it, I'd be more than happy to do that.
Yeah, that would be good.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Jason.
Whatever it is, it's healthy.
Yes, yes, and we'll take healthy. Yes, absolutely.
Make a motion to approve.
Second?
Got a motion and a second. All in favor of approving the financial reports for April and May?
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, financial reports passed. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. I believe Mike is up next. Good morning, Mike.
Good morning, Council. Thanks for your time. I'll handle item number 3 here, the request for a recommendation to move forward to the BCC. The events that were voted on and approved by the North Walton Special Events Committee to be a part of our event marketing support program. As you remember, we separated the North Walton events out from the South Walton events, changed the criteria up a little bit. That committee met to score the event applications in July. And you see there on the agenda the events that were approved and the associated dollar amounts of support for each of those events. With your approval, we'll roll this forward to the Board of County Commissioners at the next available opportunity. And I'm happy to answer any questions on those.
Mike, is this for clarification for the council, are these numbers the same as what we did last year?
Well, it's a different program. So last year, the program wasn't about writing checks to these events to kind of support their efforts and fund some of their marketing programs. We took their marketing task kind of in-house and performed a lot of those services on their behalf. After going back to the North Walton Events Committee and changing the guidelines of the program quite a bit, we've changed it to more something that looks more similar to a sponsorship program. Realizing that a lot of the needs of these events are financial more so than marketing support. So our investment doesn't change a whole lot, just the mechanism by which we support these events do. So the North Walton Events Committee was able to vote on yes or no, this event should be included in the program, and whether they should be included at a $6,000 award level or a $3,000 award level, depending on several factors. So following that meeting, these are the events that were approved, 3 of them at the $6,000 level and 3 of them at the $3,000 level.
Is the monetary amount the same as it was last year?
I don't know that exactly, just because of the change in the program. I can tell you it's very, very similar. Maybe not exactly the same, but very close.
All right, thank you, Mike.
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second for the approval of the following events for the North Walton Grant Support Program. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Jay, good morning, Jay.
Good morning, Chair and council members. Just wanted to handle this item for lifeguard services. So it is time for us to put out a new RFP for our lifeguard services. So this request is for approval and recommendation to the BCC to move forward with an RFP for lifeguard services. Most of the verbiage in the RFP is the same as last time. We are expanding the program just a little bit with this RFP in 2 ways. One, we'd like to extend lifeguard services to year-round versus just seasonal. And in that way, we have, protected beaches year-round. Now, it would be abbreviated in the off-season where it's not a full staff. It would be, what we're proposing in the RFP is 5 people in the off-season. So that would run November through February. And then from March until October, we would have full coverage. So we're even extending the season a little bit, because the season currently, as it stands with what we have in place with our current contract, runs from mid-March to the end of September. So we'll be expanding it about a month and a half. We need more coverage during spring break, and also October is a very big month now with fall break. And so when we initiated this contract a few years back, I don't think fall break was as big as it's become. And so we wanted to actually try to do an addendum to the contract a year ago, but legal felt that it was outside of the original scope, so they said, let's wait until we do a new contract. So that's what we're proposing. Any questions for me on that?
Jay, what's our current budget for lifeguard services right now? Do you know?
Do you know offhand? We can get that. I don't know offhand. I think it's $1.3 million. No. I think it's like 1.1, 1.2. So this would, increase it. To what extent, we don't know. That's the point of doing the RFP.
Right.
But I wouldn't imagine that it would be that much of an increase.
Probably 300,000 to 400,000.
That's kind of what I was thinking.
Okay.
And we did, when we put the budget together, we did include more money in the budget, so we should be covered. I think we put $1.5 million or $6 million in the budget.
Okay.
And this also covers the new beach accesses?
It does not, but it is in the RFP that if we add a beach access, then it's a set amount that just gets added to the contract, and we can just do an addendum at that point. That was in the previous contract, the current contract that we have now, and when we added Grayton Beach a year ago, that's when we went ahead and implemented that portion of the contract, and I think it's about $70,000 per additional beach access.
And after the proposal's done, we'll have the opportunity to reread it and include or exclude?
For the contract,
Services
yes,
may be desired or not desired?
correct.
Talk a little bit about the line of thinking, when you decide to expand, the services. I mean, I'm certainly in favor of something like this, but do you guys look at data, like, drownings and
We do. We look at data. We look at visitation.
Yeah.
That's something that we have worked with South Walton Fire District on, who is the current contract that we have the contract with. And so, moving forward, obviously, we don't know that it'll be them in the future, but, we'll see who submits a proposal. But from our conversations with them and the services that they provide, you know, year-round, they do have David Vaughn, I think, is David here? Yeah, David's here now, and so David is year-round, and he does have a couple of guards that are year-round currently. So he kind of makes that work within his budget. So we really want to have it where it's more formalized, and it's not something, you know, that South Walton Fire District or whoever the new contractor is, if perhaps that's the way it goes, has to kind of, you know, carve that money out of something else. So we think that if it's where we have a skeleton crew during the off-season, the shoulder season, that would be a good thing, that we have some protection on the beaches. There'd be more of a roving type of a situation between beach accesses.
Focus more on the busier access points.
Correct.
Okay.
I'd just like to make one comment. I think this last couple of weeks, we had like 200 rescues, had a couple of deaths. You can't put a price on a human life. And you can't put a price on a stupid human life.
Yeah.
I mean, people that were out there with double red flags certainly didn't need to be out there, but I'm one that's always said, you know, you can't put a price on that, and we have the ability to do that, so that's the only comment I want to make.
And you know, we're really good in the fact, or South Walton Fire District, I won't take the credit for it, I'll give the credit where it's due, but they do a good job protecting our beaches. And so, and we definitely see the trend where there is protection on the beaches, you know, as far as rescues, I mean, they're just right on it. And so we don't have that high of an incident on the beaches that are protected. So whereas when you look at after hours, perhaps when they're not there, then it kind of starts to revert to Good Samaritans and to the sheriff's office. And so by extending that, you know, where it's year-round, when people come year-round to our beaches now. So if they're here in November, or if they're here in January or February, you know, there's still that protection there.
So, just curious, I should probably know this, but I mean, at every access point, public access point, during the busy season, would we at least have one lifeguard station at every one of those?
We currently do
We did.
for peak season. So what we're proposing is to keep that, and then for the shoulder season, have it where basically we'd have enough guards to split the beach, because we have basically 10 beach accesses. So we'd split that where it'd be like one guard between 2 beach accesses. So they would just roam back and forth. That's the thinking.
Just want to say also that I know that Okaloosa does run theirs from the 1st of March till the end of October too, so this just kind of put us in line with that.
And they do have year-round protection as
And
well.
they have year-round protection, and touch on what Richard said, I pulled somebody out on Sunday, there was a fatality, so, you know, he said he can't put a price on that, so that would be something I think I would highly recommend as we continue to beef this up.
Without question, the beaches are a priority for us. They're our number one amenity, and beach safety is right up there with beautification and the like. And in the spirit of year-round business, which is more evident every year, you know, I propose we support and approve this motion in regards to approving the RFP and presenting it to the Board of County Commissioners.
Is that a motion?
That is a motion.
All right. Second. We have a second. We have a motion and a second on approval for RFP for lifeguard services. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Jay.
Mr. Chairman, let's make sure we're getting public comment after a motion in a second, please.
I apologize, sir. Would you like me to back up?
If there is any public comment on that, you can take it now, but we did ask for public comment at the start of the meeting on all agenda items, so the public has had an opportunity to go forward, and let's make sure we have it, because I don't know if everybody can hear.
Okay.
I couldn't hear whether it's heard the last one or not, so just so the public knows.
Thank you, sir. Brian? Good morning.
Morning, Chairman, council members. I'm Brian Kellenberger, Director of Beach Operations. Appreciate your time this morning. Got a couple items of business. First one is a request for recommendation to the BCC to make the following improvements to Drayton Beach State Park. This is part of a multi-use path project that we started in 2015. This portion was from Watercolor to County Road 283. Phase 1 has been completed. That included the section from Watercolor to the west side of Western Lake, and then phase two is from the west side of Western Lake to 283. As it was being designed, there is a series of power poles that start at 283 and go east to about where Miller's Road is right there. And it became problematic. To move the power poles was going to be about $380,000, I believe. And so we approached the state park system to obtain a easement along their southern boundary of the state park in that area. And the easement was for drainage and grading, as well as the path will be partially on the state park system. After much discussion, the state park came back to us with a couple of items that they would like for us to consider. And those items are to install a crosswalk at the main park entrance off of 30A. So where their park is, we would put in a crosswalk across 30A to connect to our new path. The second one is pave and maintain the trailhead parking lot north of Highway 30A. So they relocated their trailhead to that, the trail through the woods. They've relocated a little bit further east of their main entrance. They have it now gravelled in and a small split rail fence. They asked us to pave that and maintain it. And the third item is to install and maintain a bathroom with two-person capacity at that trailhead. And that would all be in exchange for this easement that is approximately 0.2 acres and would start at the southwest corner of the property boundary at the junction of 283 and 30A and head to the east, the distance of those power poles. So what we're asking for, recommendation approval to the BCC to approve these items. So moving forward, we would further define, what the elements are, apply a cost to them. The parking lot is approximately 20 parking spaces. The restroom, initial discussions have been a two-fixture unit. It would be basically two unisex bathrooms in one building, approximately 320 square feet. And then, of course, the crosswalk across the road would be our standard crosswalk we put on 30A.
Who would maintain the bathrooms?
They've asked that the TDC maintain the bathrooms and the parking lot. So we would put it in rotation with the rest of our regional beach access restroom facilities that we clean every day, first thing in the morning.
Is it gonna require more staff?
Right now, we can handle one additional bathroom. We're already adding on 3 new regional beach accesses. When those come online, we will anticipate adding more staff to do that custodial work.
Brian, will those be hooked up to regional?
Yes, sir. They'll be connected to Chelco electrical power and to regional utilities, water and sewer.
Do you have a cost estimate?
I have rough numbers. So 320 square foot building, $200, $225 a square foot. You're looking at between 60 and 80K. Parking lot with 20 spaces, averaging $4,000 to $5,000 a space. You're looking at 80 to 100K. Utilities, 20 to 25K. So you're looking at a range of 160 to 205. And this is
Plus the cost of the parking.
80 to 100. So 20 spaces at $4,000 to $5,000
I'm talking about
per
the
space.
parking between 283 and
I'm sorry, do what?
the parking that's going to be in the easement. Are you going to brick pave that? Are you going to brick pave that?
The parking area?
The new parking area that we're
Yes, sir.
using?
So it's a parking area that's already established, and it's been gravelled.
I
And
got you.
so the surface hasn't been determined. We would probably look at some kind of pervious surface, be it pervious pavers or what we call grass pavers that, are kind of honeycombed. Something that would minimize any stormwater, systems in there and be environmentally, correct.
Okay.
But like I said, now, those prices I threw out are purely conceptual.
I
There's
understand
been
that.
no design work done, and I'm going off, what we call basic historical cost data.
Are those pavers being used anywhere else? Do y'all use them in any other projects?
We have not used what I call the grass pavers. You know, there are a product that's a concrete paver that's called a pervious paver. It looks very similar to a regular concrete paver. You know, we'd have to rely on our engineering people to determine what is the most appropriate product and what is its permeability rate and all that. You know, when you get down to doing impervious or pervious surfaces, you know, a lot of times it's the base underlying that surface that really dictates how pervious the whole system is. So I'm saying, you know, lime rock base is not very pervious. And so, but, like I say, in an attempt to do the best we can, we would look at all different sources that, you know, the other thing is too, you don't want to put yourself into a high maintenance category that actually costs more money and may put other stuff into the environment you don't want. Yes, sir.
Well, that's what I was gonna point out, that, then you'd have stormwater issues and stuff like that, where this is probably more natural.
Right, right. So this one, we would probably look at, you know, some underground stormwater systems, you know, as opposed to open retention ponds. And, okay.
So what's your total cost estimate?
You know, looking at it, between 160 and 205,000.
All in, everything?
Yes, sir.
Everything that we see on here?
I'm talking about for the in-kind items that the state park would like to have us do in exchange for the easement. All right, so the rest of the project would cost more money, of course. That's, you know, a very large section of multi-use path.
Sure, so what's the total budget roughly? Million, half a million?
For that section of path, it's probably gonna cost us around $1 million, maybe 1.2. The section between 285, between Watercolor and the west side of Western Lake was 1.6, but it included some large metal spans across the lake. This section's a little bit longer, but doesn't include those large metal spans. Does have some wooden spans. We'd have to, you know, bid that out, but off the top of my head, I'm thinking around 1.2 million for that section of path.
I realize it's conceptual, you'll have to go out for RFP and all that.
Yes, sir.
What's the timeline for the, like, when
We
will this money be spent? Will it be in this year's budget or next year's?
If we spend it out of this year's budget, we would have to seek money out of the reserve account. If we did it in we have not budgeted for FY19. So if it's in 18 or 19, it'll come out of reserves. If we're looking at FY20, we could possibly budget it in there. We have other projects that we, you know, are under design and permit right now. 3 regional beach accesses that are going to take some of the reserve money already. So it would be a decision that have to be made based on our reserves. You know, we would like to go ahead and finish this section of the path,
Yeah.
because then that would create a new path from Highway 83 at Blue Mountain Beach all the way to Watercolor.
Sure.
And one of the questions on when it can be funded is gonna come into play depending on which section of Florida statute we're able to fund this under. As the council's aware, effective July 1, the legislature allowed the expenditure of tourist development tax revenues on public facilities. This most traditionally would be considered a public facility under that new statute. Requires we can only pay 70%, the county has to pay 30%. We have to commission an independent study also be a question, just so the TDC knows. Your recommendation is necessary to move forward under either subsection of the statute. I'll be talking to the county attorney and make sure the board's comfortable with the way it's being pursued. The Board of County Commissioners may feel it needs to be pursued under the new public facilities statute, in which case there'll be additional areas we have to come back and approve additional steps anyway. So, understand, that's gonna play in as much as anything about our reserve accounts that we're looking funds from.
Clay, would your suggestion be, if we make a motion to put it in the 2019 budget?
I think that would be the absolute safest course because we've not expended any of the beach park facilities money from 2019 yet, and therefore we have the full, and you can do the math, what our budget is, 10% thereof, this is a drop in the bucket compared to that, so this would easily be covered under that. Otherwise, we're gonna run up against that hard cap. So fiscal year 19, I can tell you right now, I think we can do it. I'm comfortable saying it's a beach park facility, though it's not one we own. As Brian said, we're gonna treat it just like our other facilities. And the statute doesn't define county-owned, state-owned. It just says beach park facilities. I don't think anybody's gonna dispute that Great Beach is a beach park. It probably is one of those clear examples of beach park.
Thank you, Clay.
Okay, a few of the things, we have received a letter of support from the state park system. Today in attendance is Warren Popple. He's the bureau chief for the state parks. And also Chance Powell, who is our county engineer. This portion of the bike path has actually been project managed by the Public Works Department. The TDC was simply funding the construction of it. So if we have any questions of those two people, they're here in the audience to talk.
I just would like to clarify that, will you clarify, please, the reason for doing this project?
Okay, so the, along that stretch of where the path is proposed to be put is a series of large power poles. And in order to get on the north side of those power poles, we would need to put the path partially along the boundary line. So in most of that area, the path, the actual 10-foot path, straddles the property boundary line. But we need some additional room to do drainage and grading, dirt work. And so the impact along that southern boundary from the southwest corner heading east is 0.2 acres. That section of the forest there is, or of the state park, is 14 acres. And this is directly on the boundary line. It does not go into the park and bisect the park in any way. But so the reason for it is to not have to move the power poles. If we did move the power poles, we would still be encroaching into the state park system with guy wires, and of course the work to get those power poles in would be cutting some trees. We'll have to, cut a few trees right there on the boundary, but we'll of course limit that to the best we can. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sir, thank you very much.
Okay. Let me add too, is looking at this, approximately $380,000 to move the power poles 10 feet does not offer much of a public benefit. Conversely, spending $160,000 to $205,000 for paved parking, restroom facility, and crosswalk is a definite public benefit, and it works into the state parks system of connecting trails, public right-of-way trails to nature trails and all that. Yes, sir.
Is it a 10-foot wide path, as we just finished over on the other side of 83?
Yeah, it'll be a 10-foot wide path. Any path we reconstruct or build new on 30A or Scenic Gulf Drive will be a 10-foot wide path. Going up our connector roads, some of the connecting paths we're putting in are only 8 feet wide. Any other questions or comments?
I'll be happy to make a motion.
We have a motion.
Second.
Who made the second? Tim made the second. Any public comments? Come on up. Good morning. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Celeste Cabina.
Good morning.
Good morning. I have some questions and some comments dealing with both the bike path and the impacts to the state park. First, is there a master plan for the multi-use path that goes from, you know, one side of 38 to the other? And the reason I ask is, it appears that the bike path is just worked on very piecemeal. There isn't a master plan, and this is a great example of that. So is there a master plan? I mean, and also, specifically, will the bike path that is currently on the south side of 38 be torn up like it was on the other side of Western Lake, or will it remain and have the path on both sides?
Okay, thanks for the question. There is a master plan. Public Works, Chance Powell, county engineer, has put together a master plan, and it includes all of South Walton. Be glad to share it with you. Don't have it handy right now, but I can email it to everybody. And the path is not worked on piecemeal. We actually have a 5-year improvement plan. The first part was that section from Watercolor to west side of Western Lake. Phase 2 of that was going to be the second section. We ran into some problems. We then started on the next section, which was from 283 to 83. And then starting in 2019, possibly 2020, we'll be headed east from 395 towards Eastern Lake. That section of the path, or those sections of the paths, will be rebuilt in conjunction with stormwater projects that are being designed and permitted for that section of 38. So we do have a plan. It's a very good plan. It does require a lot of funding, and some of it's funded by TDC, some of it's funded by Walton County Public Works. What was the second question?
Are you going to dig up the bike path on the south
yes.
side? Or
So the path, we've already taken up the path from Watercolor to the east side of Western Lake, and then the path from the west side of Western Lake to the State Park entrance road will be taken up. It will remain from there to the corner of 283.
So from the State Park entrance, it will remain all the way to 283 on the south side. So you'll have the bike path on both sides of the road in that section.
Yes.
Okay. Well, here's an issue that I see from a perspective of both a person who drives a car and rides a bike on 30A. I think you've got way too many crosswalks, and I think we're adding another crosswalk here, and every time you add a crosswalk, you're adding the potential for accidents to happen. And, you know, I've seen them happen to both bicyclists and vehicles. And the intersection of 295 or 395, the one in Seagrove, you know, the one remaining problem is the bike path on the north side causing congestion. It should have been on the south side. We all know that, but we all know why. Here, I think you're going to create another traffic issue at the intersection of Grayton Beach by having folks have to cross back and forth there at the intersection. And I think it will better serve the pedestrians and the bicyclists. One of the reasons, a big issue I hear, is that people don't like the road riders in the street. They've got to be in the street because they are having to stop and cross, you know, the road all the time. They don't want to stop. And I think this is where we need to have the bike path on both sides, and there needs to be a better plan. So there's, from a traffic perspective, why I think this is not a good idea. It needs to remain completely on the south side. Secondly, something that I'm not sure has been taken into consideration, I've got the county maps here, and, you know, this section of roadway, where the easement has both wetlands, and it's also within the coastal Dune Lake tributary protection area. So that needs to be taken into account, because then you're going to have small, yet there will be need mitigation for this. I also feel like the county really needs to look at 30A, And, you know, I've been in meetings, no matter what you're looking at, there's an issue with the right-of-way. And, you know, y'all have the money, or you need to find the money to bury all of the power lines and put them underground. You know, that's going to give you more right-of-way. It'll be an aesthetic on 30A, because instead of looking at power lines, they're gone. That's where all the high-end developments, that's what they do. They bury their power lines. Why hasn't Walton County stepped up and done that? And I think this ought to be the first section of 30A where you bury the power lines. And, you know, you'd have saved a whole lot of grief over there in Seagrove if you'd have done that. So I suggest you look at that alternative to bury the power lines there. Then you can, then you've got the room there. You don't need the easement. Secondly,
Celeste,
yeah.
I've given you almost 6 minutes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Well, he interrupted me. Let me just finish. I'll wrap it up. I'll wrap it up.
I gave you an additional 3 minutes, and he only took a minute of it.
I have one more point to make that is very important. I'll be very brief.
Thank you.
It doesn't, you know, Grayton Beach State Park management, the state park, is not the last word on this. This has to go to the Acquisition, the ARC Council, Acquisition and Recreation Council. And, you know, they will take comment on this, and they'll certainly hear from me and some other people, because one of the things, no matter what you're looking at, if there is an alternative, that alternative must be looked at. Next,
That's it. No.
one more thing.
No, you just
Okay.
said one more thing. That's the end. I've given you plenty of time. Thank you very much.
This is in an OPA,
Ma'am.
which
Can you state your name for the record, please?
I will, thank you. Bonnie McQuiston, McQuiston. Good morning, thank
Good
you.
morning.
Hi. So I am on the board of Friends of the Grayton Beach State Park and Deer Lake State Park, and I'm not speaking for that because I didn't know anything about this, but I do have questions because I believe it was just recently in the last year, not over 2 years ago, that we built, or that the park built that parking lot there. They moved the trailhead from where it was to this place right here that we're talking about. And it was put in, gravel was put in because, I don't know whether you say impervious or pervious, which is the one that drains. Gravel was used because it's close to a coastal dune lake, and that is critical. So I was speaking to this gentleman with the Park Service earlier. I said, what are you talking about? Pave. You don't mean asphalt. No, pavers or something. But my question is, he said it would be to stabilize the parking lot. But my question is, why didn't the park do that anyway? If it's important to the park to stabilize the parking lot, they just put it in. Why didn't they do that? And my last thing is this. I think that parking lot would not be for the trails necessarily, because a paved parking lot for trails. I don't understand why it has to be paved, but it really is to benefit the bike path. I mean, it's to benefit the bike path, not the trails, because the park would have done it that way to start with if it was for the trails. And so I just guess I have more questions than answers. So thank you.
Thank you, Bonnie. Brian, do you want to kind of clarify that for us as to? Oh, all right. That would be fine. Thank you.
Morning. How y'all doing? Good.
Good morning.
Good. My name's Warren Poplin. I'm Bureau Chief for District 1 Florida State Parks, stationed over there in Panama City. Grayton Beach is one of our fine jewels that we have within our district. Okay, so question was pertaining to why didn't the Florida Park Service stabilize that with pavers to begin with? It was due to the funding. The project itself was done quickly due to safety concerns. The people that were using the off-road trails were parking up there next to the lake, or next to the little bridge area down there, and they would back into traffic, and it was really causing a lot of serious concerns, not only for just us, but for our neighbors there. So we took quick action and put a Band-Aid on it by moving the parking area to where it is. Gravel is what we could afford at the time, so that's the reason why it's at that current stage.
Thank you very much. Appreciate
Sir,
it.
excuse me,
Yes, I'm sorry?
Ms. McQuiston, who's a dear friend of mine, but she made a statement that she felt like the parking lot was for the bike path. Do you agree with that or disagree with that?
So the parking lot, what we looked at as we established it was for the off-road bicycle trail and hiking trails that are on the north side of 30A. That part of Grayton Beach State Park has limited access, so that was the reason why we put that parking lot in. So as far as the paved portion of the trail, part of the Florida Park Service is also the Office of Greenways and Trails. And so we're not opposed to trails. We like connector trails. And everything that we do is to try to enhance our visitors' experience. And so we have camping opportunities there at Grayton Beach. And so as people would come and camp at the park itself, to ride their bicycle out of the park and have that opportunity to go either way on that bike path, what an amazing experience. So we look at that as an enhancement as far as the Florida Park Service is concerned.
And the bathrooms?
We all have to go. So we would prefer
Some
to.
of us more than others.
We would prefer to have restroom facilities than not, because people are still going to go.
Yeah.
So that's one of those things that we have found. So if we can capitalize on this opportunity to make it a better experience for our guests, that's what we're about.
Can you just clarify something? I think Tony asked the question, do you see that parking lot as being vehicular or primarily a bike parking lot?
Oh, I would think so. I think it's both for people that are parking to utilize not only the off-road trail, but also the paved trail. I think that would be good for both.
Both cars and bicycles?
Oh, bicycle parking, I don't see bicycle parking. I think people would come there, park their car, get on their bicycle, and then recreate.
I just wanted clarification because I think that was the initial
We'll
part
need a
of this
bike
question.
rack, but other than that, no, I think it's mostly vehicular traffic.
Thank you very much.
Indeed. Any other questions?
I got a question. Ms. Cabina, she brought up a group land acquisition or whatever. Does that affect whatever the decisions made?
It's the Acquisition and Restoration Council, so anytime there's a proposal of this type of nature, it has to go through them, and then it has to have final approval from the Board of Trustees. The Florida Park Service, we are the fortunate ones that get to manage this portion of state land. So we don't own the property, state lands has the property, we're just the managing entity for that. So anytime there's activities of this type of nature, it has to go through the approval process.
Thanks for your clarification.
Indeed.
Do you have a chance to have a recommendation in that?
Oh, yes.
Okay, and your recommendation would be to approve this?
This is something that, as we were looking at it originally, the Florida Park Service was the one that suggested these benefits for the visitor's experience itself. Any other?
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Can you state your name for the record, please?
Jeff Talbert.
Morning, Jeff.
Morning. So after listening to that, it's, if that's correct, about $380,000 to move the power poles. And then the cost of the parking area and bathroom is up to 205, you said? So I don't think, Warren, I don't think you guys asked for enough. If you want to enhance visitor experiences, there's some things in the park that I think that that you should actually come back and fill in that gap, the $175,000 gap. A bike path from the campground to the beach is the most pressing need I think that you would have in there. So that's what I have to say.
Okay, thank you very much. Chance, could you come up here? Somebody, Mr. Anderson would like to ask you a question, please.
Ms. Cabina made the comment about the crosswalk at 283.
Yes, sir.
And I'd like your opinion on that, because I fear, I don't want it to turn into 395. And since you are a traffic engineer, I would like your comments on that.
Okay. Right, currently, we do have the path that swaps from side to side throughout the stretch of 38. It is on the north side through Seaside. And and a portion of it on the north side through Watercolor. We do have plans within this phase of the project to complete the path through Watercolor on the north side from Seaside over to the new bridges on the north side of the road across Western Lake. And we felt that it was best to go ahead and carry that path all the way to 283 where there's a stop-controlled intersection for people to cross. There will be an opportunity for them to cross at an RRFB, and that's the rectangular rapid flashing beacon, like you see just west of the lake now. That crossing will be moved down to the entrance of Grayton Beach State Park. So people have an opportunity to cross at that push-button activated signal by the pedestrians, or they'll be able to continue on the north side all the way to 283 and stop and cross at a stop-controlled intersection. I agree with Ms. Cobina that at some point we do need paths on both sides of the road. The projects that we're currently working on right now through Seagrove, east of 395, all the way to Lakewood Drive. We're looking at the design concept right now is a new 10-foot path on the south side of the road and at least a 6-foot pedestrian facility on the north side of the road. So we're working towards that as plans move forward. It's just through that section there from Watercolor over to 283, there's limited residential units in that stretch. We're mainly just moving people from one side to the other through there. Since the bridges got placed on the north side, just like the pass on the north side through Seaside, we continue that trend all the way to the stop-controlled intersection at 283. And one other point was that it was a direction from Water Management District for the impacts of the path. Even though a recreational facility like a multi-use path is exempt from stormwater management through the state, the path from Western Lake over to Grayton Beach State Park entrance on the south side, we're removing that to mitigate stormwater impacts. And that was the main reason for that. And it would go basically to nowhere, and we didn't want another opportunity for people to cross 38 down there right before the lake.
Is one of the reasons you're moving the and I agree with Ms. Cobina also. I think that there's many places that we can have the path on the south side or have it on both sides, the better off we are. Is one of the reasons you want to move the bike path to the north side because you don't want anybody crossing that bridge on the south side?
Well, in order for us to cross pedestrians on the south side, they were crossing on the existing vehicular bridges, which did not accommodate both vehicles and pedestrians. Mm-hmm. We'd need to build a standalone pedestrian bridge. That could be something that could be done in the future. I just don't know that it's a need right now, given the amount of residential units in that stretch. Obviously, I think way down the road there'll be some bridges over there, standalone pedestrian bridges. But the decision was made several commission boards ago to place those bridges on the north side of the road. That's where they went. We're doing our best to work with that through this section until there are some bridges on the south side.
Any other?
Just
Go ahead, Tom.
for the record, I wasn't on the board that made that decision.
There were reasons that they were put on the north side, and they are people on both sides of that argument.
Anybody else got a question?
One of the benefits I see, I ride this path a lot on my bike, and suddenly you'll have a nice contiguous trail on the north side going from, all the way from Watercolor, it appears, and then you cross over the bridge, Western Lake, and now you can take it all the way to 283, and you'll be in one nice path the entire way.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is a benefit, and it's less crossing back and forth. You do need a safe crossover to get to the park, and then you get closer to 283, and there's some retail and restaurant there, and people, I guess, can use that intersection there. But look, if we could do it on both sides all the way down, great. But for now, this seems to be a good idea.
Well, and that's glad you made that point, because I was involved with the path and where it's going now several years ago when that planning was taking place, and we were looking at the path is already on the north side through Seaside. We could make some modifications through watercolor and keep it on the north side there. The bridges could be on the north side across the bridge. There's absolutely no development from there all the way to 283 on the north side. So those using the path could do that without interaction with any driveways, people backing out at Virago and that type of stuff. It just seemed like a safer place to put it right now, given the development trends that's in the area.
Any other questions for Chance? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning,
Can you
Council.
state your name for the record?
Lee Moore.
Hi, Lee.
I wasn't going to speak, but all these hot buttons of mine are being hit, so I can't not. You know, I'm speaking representing Howard Group and the Scenic Corridor Foundation both, and me as an individual citizen, because I've gotten pulled into all of this personally at this point. And when I say that, I mean it in a positive way, valuing all of these improvements. I could not agree more with a lot of things that have been said. When I first started getting very involved in the community, I had all these grandiose visions and thoughts, and that came from my training and from my company, my employer, and the organizations that I've gotten involved with on a nonprofit side. I have come to understand the importance of balancing that overall vision with incremental progress. And so I hesitated to even speak because I know that this has been worked on for a long time. I've been following this pretty closely. And this particular issue that you're looking at today of the working with the state park to make this path doable through this section has been worked on for a long time, and it looks like it is coming to a pretty darn great conclusion. There's a lot of win-win-win on all sides. I will say, and I don't think that should be slowed or stopped or anything like that, but speaking from a larger, a bigger picture perspective, I don't think there are many things that we could do that would be more beneficial to this area than undergrounding utilities. And I know I'm sort of echoing some things that have already been said, but I think this next phase that Chance was talking about, and I've talked with him about it, from 395 to Eastern Lake, it's a very critical section. It's probably one of the worst sections we have from every perspective when you look at a street. You know, and I happen to live next to Eastern Lake, or near Eastern Lake right now. I bike and walk that path a lot, and I also drive that section more than I unfortunately walk it and bike it. Wish it was the other way around for my health's sake, but so it really is a great need, and I don't even want to slow that down, or I don't want the county to slow that down, but looking at undergrounding utilities, it would be a long-term project. I mean, you know, states and local governments across the country are going through undergrounding projects that take 15, 20, 30, 50 years. But you got to start somewhere. And I think it would be so valuable for our area. I'm going to run out of time, so I'll wrap up. But I think it could be part of a master plan. And when Celeste asked about a master plan for the path along 30A, I have also been asking for that, and I'm asking for it as the chair of the Destination Improvement Committee for the TDC as well, because I want to see that visual, and I think it would be valuable to present that to the community. This is a really hot topic, right? I mean, from both visitors and residents' perspective, everybody wants to know, and we start to see projects going on out there, and I'm a lot more plugged in than the average citizen, so I can only imagine it feels piecemeal. But it would be great to present that plan, because it is so amazing to see progress happening. And it's happening, and I don't have anything negative to say about that, but it would be helpful, I think, to educate the community about what that master plan is. What sections are coming next and planned for later. I think that would be very valuable and probably avoid some questions and concerns in the future.
Time.
As well. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Underground
Ray.
those utilities.
Mr. Chair, there was a group I'm a part of, probably about 3-4 years ago. We approached Chelco Gulf Power about putting underground utilities along 38 to get rid of the power poles and all that. Now, Chance might have been part of some of that back then, or maybe giving us some numbers, but my understanding was it's like about a 5-year project, and it's about $15 million then.
I think it's
More than that.
I think
It's more than
close-
that
It's
now.
closer to 100 million today.
To that today?
Yes.
Yeah, so that's, but maybe Chief
Did y'all hear that? To put underground utilities on 30A from one end to the other, today's estimates are around $100 million. All right. Is there any more public comment? All right, we have a motion and a second on the request for recommendations to the BCC to make the following improvements to the Great Beach State Park. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Brian?
Thank you, sir.
Gosh, you got up there fast.
Yeah, man, ready to take care of business. Second item today is a request for consideration for the TDC to pass a resolution of support for Trees on the Coast projects. Trees on the Coast is a nonprofit organization that furnishes and installs trees on public property. Today we have Alan French with us. He's going to give us a short presentation on it. We'll go ahead and talk a little bit before he gets up here. We have a couple of specific.
Brian, before we go much further, I know Mr. French is here, and Mr. Chairman, if the council's so inclined to let Mr. French, since he's come here to give the presentation, give it, that would certainly be acceptable. I would note, I think you ought to pack a letter we received on August 6th from regional utilities expressing concern for this project, specifically noting their placement of utility service lines in that area and the fact that any vegetation in or near their lines could pose issues, as well as the fact they have an ongoing capital improvement project to upgrade existing aging infrastructure in this area. Given that fact, I'll say this, I think it would be premature for the TDC to voice a resolution of support until we know this has gone through County Public Works and all other entities that would vet a project like this. Because if we issue a resolution, say, hey, we support this, and the county turns around and says, we can't allow this to happen because of infrastructure, we've stepped way outside of our lane, even if we like this project. So, given the fact that there's a legitimate concern for the use of those right-of-ways and the infrastructure in this project may affect it, my recommendation to the council before we go into too much detail today will be to table this project until we've heard from Public Works and Planning that they verify the project, the scope of the project would not in fact affect existing county utilities or private utilities the county is franchised to. But certainly you have a gentleman here for a presentation. Before we have staff put forth an entire presentation to you about what it is, so what you're saying, legal's recommendation is I think we may step outside our bounds when we pass a resolution for or against this until we know that information. I certainly would ask the TDC to take the position that will potentially suggest to planning or another county entity that we have no control over how we will decide this issue.
I understand. So are you asking us to make a resolution to, are you suggesting to
I'm asking you to consider tabling this.
immediately?
To receive the presentation from Mr. Freeman. So you certainly can let him make this presentation today as a courtesy and then table action on this until we receive that additional information.
Okay. Thank you, Clay.
I've got a question now.
Go ahead, Gary.
So, how do tree roots impact the utilities
Tree
if they're
roots.
not, and the utilities are not underground?
And these are water and sewer.
Water and sewer.
Sewer lines? Okay,
Sewer
okay.
lines for regional utilities.
I got it.
And,
I guess I was so fixed on the utility underground and all that, that just got confusing.
The
So,
regional utilities that has expressed their concern that the lines could cause breakage of the lines, or if trees are uprooted or blown over, that it can additionally cause concerns there. I can't speak to the merits of their letter or not. I will
Yeah,
simply
all
say
right.
that having represented other governmental entities that maintain utility services such as this, anything that goes into one of our utility easements has to be vetted thoroughly with engineering, planning, and every other aspect before we allow anything to go there, even if it's an above-ground structure that would not potentially have intrusion underground for concern for access to those lines as well. going to be presented with a resolution. So before we can speak for or against the project or rule on, or vote on the merits, I think we have to have more information. Because if we're told something cannot happen, I don't believe it's appropriate for us to ever pass that.
Clay, wouldn't all that be dictated by wherever those utility easements lie?
Exactly, that's what goes through planning and through public works.
Would it come back to us after it's vetted, Clay?
Absolutely, that's what your tabling would be. Your tabling would be to ask our table and ask our staff to coordinate with Walton County Public Works and Planning to get us the necessary information to determine whether or not to move forward with the project.
All right. Brian, would you do as he recommended and is it Mr. French?
Yeah, we like, yeah.
Let him make his
If I could finish what I
presentation.
was
Absolutely,
starting.
absolutely.
Appreciate Mr. Atkinson's input, definitely good legal advice. We've already spoke with Mr. French about this letter from Regional Utilities and his other items associated with the Land Development Code and also input from our Public Works Department. And instead of a resolution for specific projects, it would be a resolution just for support of the conceptual idea. Any project would then be vetted through those different departments to see if they are viable and can be done. And so what we're looking for is to advance the conceptual design of trees for the coast, providing trees for right-of-way areas or other public areas. Could be our public regional beach accesses or other public facilities like that that aren't necessarily in a right-of-way. So like I said, we have taken all this under consideration, and as opposed to a resolution for two specific projects that are included in this handout, it would just be a resolution for support of the concept of trees for the coast, providing free trees. So, we would like to hear from Mr. French, or is the information in your package enough for you to?
Mr. Kellenberg, with all due respect, the agenda item specifically asks for the approval of a resolution, which I would note is not in the package, it's not been approved at this point, on two specific projects. I certainly think the more prudent approach is what Mr. Kellenberger is suggesting. I would think, in fact, once you get the information, you would probably want to approve a project in general rather than specific areas. We have certainly gone through many steps about the TDC focusing on specific areas of South Walton over other areas. So I completely endorse the idea that we would have a resolution on a broader area. But as it's agenda today, I don't see how we could even pass that today, given what's been presented. And I think the change is appropriate, but even then, I would still recommend, I would like to see all of that in writing to verify that we're not passing a resolution that Public Works is going to come back, or somebody else will come back and say later, we don't know why the TDC did this could never happen. Because now we're an Ogden County. We are part of the county. We're not a standalone entity to the Board of County Commissioners. We're an advisory board to them. If this is a piece of advice we wish to offer up to the board Mr. Anderson serves on along with 4 other commissioners, we can do so. But I can tell you in my experience, sitting here as TDC counsel, every time the TDC is trying to present the BCC with a recommendation they haven't asked for, and the BCC's not had all this information, it comes right back to you. And I would expect that's what would happen in this case, is they would say, we want more information before we approve it. So I think you're gonna either hear it today and send it up, or hear it later, or just go ahead and hear it later. So in the effort to try to avoid duplicating work, I think you can hear the presentation today. I just don't see a contractual resolution that's not on the agenda.
Well, it doesn't seem to me to make a lot of sense to waste everybody's time and listen to a speech or a presentation when we have the advice of council to table this thing. I'm not trying to be discourteous to anybody that's here, but council members have any comments?
I tend to agree. I've actually heard the presentation from Mr. French, and it's very intriguing. I think that I would prefer to hear it if we can approve it. I mean, I would like to get more information before we hear because after we get the information, his presentation may be completely different. And I would prefer that we get the information and get him to work with our public works people, and let's figure out how we can do this. it's a good, you know, I think it's a good viable project if we can make it work. But this presentation may not be what he comes back with.
Right, so like I said, with the information we received from Public Works, understanding of the Land Development Code, and from our utility providers, that's why we've converted this, or attempted to convert this into just a conceptual idea of receiving trees, and that specific projects would then be vetted. The problem we're running into is Mr. French has gone to these other departments, and they've sent him away. And so they've gone, you know, he's gone back to what we call step one, Destination Improvement Committee. They approved it to move forward to this advisory committee. And so I completely understand legal's advice, and I think you ought to table it today. And we'll come back to you in 2 months with a request for support of a conceptual idea of providing trees to later specified projects that will be vetted by the different agencies that have say-so in the right-of-way.
Why can't I make a request to have that conceptual thing today then?
Well,
So we can move this forward.
This is an advisory board. You can make whatever motions and then vote on what you would like. Legal counsel has advised you to table it today, and I think that there ought to be some consideration for that. You know, this is what it comes down to. We have an organization that wants to provide free trees, and they want to beautify our right-of-ways. We have areas along 30A that already have trees in them by certain developments. We're not trying to put trees where it's going to, prohibit or harm utilities, and we'll bring each specific project back to the different advisory committees, and then to the BCC for final approval. And at that point, at any of those levels, we'll have the different agencies here to say, yes, I think you can put trees there without impeding our utilities or our land development code or our future public works projects. So that's kind of where we are today. But if you'd like for us to hold off, we can
Brian,
certainly hold off.
I think there's some other issues here that and I can't speak for the whole council, but and I agree with what Mr. Atkinson has said. But my concern is it, as this goes through some kind of a vetting process, one of the things that has to be addressed is what type of tree where.
Correct.
Good example is the live oaks in Sandestin. It was mandatory. I'm just using it as an example. Every house in Baytown was required to have 2 live oaks.
Right.
And now if you drive down there, all you see is cracked driveways because the roots have undermined everybody's driveways.
Right.
And so, and how they're irrigated is another great big issue. So we're dealing with a bunch of stuff that, like Mr. Anderson said, those have to be addressed. And whatever presentation we come back with, or what y'all come back with, is probably going to be completely different than what we see here. And I think a lot of those questions have to be answered long before we give a nod of approval to what we're doing. So I
Right,
can't make the motion, but
Yeah.
I just want to bring that up, that I think that those are concerns that are not going to get addressed today.
Correct. So what I'm understanding from you is instead of approving a conceptual idea of receiving trees, you would rather take each individual project and approve it on the merit of that project only.
Well, what I'm saying is, this whole idea, and I'm all for trees, believe me, I am. And I think most of the council members are as well. I can't speak for them, but I think this whole thing of it going through all the appropriate agencies first.
Right.
It's like if I want to build a house, and I got to go through, all the steps.
Yes,
And I
sir.
think this is the same thing. We love the idea that somebody's willing to donate trees,
Okay.
but let's get a complete picture that's gone through the vetting process properly, and then bring it back to us, and then we'll know. Regional will say, yeah, that kind of plan is okay over here, or this kind of plan is not okay over here.
Okay.
And then the presentation is going to make a whole lot more sense for us to say, yeah, that's a good recommendation, it's been vetted by everybody, and then we can vote educationally or intelligently, I guess is
Okay.
my point.
So we'll do that for the specific
Well,
projects.
I can't make that resolution because I'm chair, so we're going to have to ask for somebody to make a. Tim?
Well, on that
I'll make,
note, on that note, I'd like to say that, yeah, it's a great idea. I think we all probably would love to see more trees in certain areas. But as far as, I think the recommendation from our attorney is usually probably the best
Yeah, most definitely.
mode to take at this point in time. But I think you bring them back in sections, like you said. I think
Yeah.
that's a great idea. So I'd motion to table it till they come back with some specific.
I'll second that
Yeah.
motion.
All right, so we have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? None seen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Brian. Is there any old business?
I'm opposed, yeah. I'm opposed.
Good morning again.
Good morning.
Council, Mike Harrigan, Director of Marketing. Just some quick marketing updates to let you know of some progress on ongoing projects and some new things that have come up since the last time we met. We do have a couple of activations, out-of-town activations on the calendar in September. We'll be going to Chicago and Nashville, both in September, both for different food and wine events. Chicago Gourmet at the end of the month, and the Music City Food and Wine in the middle part of the month. Music City Food and Wine in Nashville is an event we've participated in the past with a lot of success. Chicago Gourmet is a new one for us, similar in scope and similar in function of the event. So we're excited about both of these. They're in great markets, a great part of the time as we are promoting shoulder season travel. So by the time we meet again, we'll have some recaps on the success of those for you that we'll be excited to share. In front of you, I put the new visitor guide, which has been mailed to homes beginning shortly after we last met, as well as distributed in our visitor center. We talked about this for a while, for several meetings, that we were kind of reimagining our visitor guide and going through a total overhaul of it. We're thrilled with the way that it turned out. We think this format and this design will serve us for some time to come. So we're excited to see it shipping and in people's hands. The response we've gotten from partners and other folks we've shared it with has been very positive. So I wanted to make sure you guys all had a copy of that here with you today. Speaking of publications in general, we've been kind of rolling these new publications out one by one as we've been getting them completed. Starting in January and February of 2019, we'll be moving to more of an annual basis for all of our publications, which would include the visitor guide, wedding publication, which is at the printer as we speak, that we'll have for you the next time we meet. The Savor Dining Guide, which I believe we shared with this council at our last meeting, our outdoor adventure guide called Explore, as well as a separate guide on arts, culture, and special events. So that'll be our annual publication lineup that we'll produce every January and get to more of a calendar basis for it. Again, in an attempt to control the voice for South Walton, both in market as well as out of market for potential visitors. Go through some marketing numbers for you, some digital analysis. You see there the impressions that we received through our various digital ad campaigns. The number that sticks out there, the 0 in June for special event, that is because we're always promoting events over the next couple of months, and we don't have any July events or August events on our program. So I know the 0 is kind of a glaring number there. A couple of high-performing ads you see at the bottom there. The Pandora mobile ad with a very high click-through rate, as well as some Facebook marketing that we're doing as well. So as we monitor these things on a month-by-month basis, we'll continue to reinvest in where we're successful and reevaluate where we're not. Continue across the board to be exceeding industry benchmarks for those things. Looking at the website, again, we are in the process of rebuilding our website, so starting to look at these numbers on a month-by-month basis, so when the new website launches, we have a benchmark to measure against. Down a little bit in page views and total sessions, as well as number of users. Those numbers are all related, so if you're down in one, you can usually anticipate down in the others as well. The no marketing of events for an entire month would likely impact that. And you can see where that traffic is coming from. Organic search, which we're excited about, being the top one over this 2-month period. Paid search coming in second. Again, having no events to promote for a month may be likely why that percentage is down in paid search, but organic search is always a positive thing. The map there showing where those folks are coming from. Nothing real surprising there. We didn't have anything out of the ordinary. When we meet again, those numbers will be impacted by the marketing that we did in Dallas and Charlotte, promoting the new flights on American Airlines. So it's interesting to see how those numbers shift a little bit there. But nothing real shocking. You see our normal core markets dominating the web traffic. Some social media numbers. Nothing jumps out necessarily here. Organic search continues to be slow across these platforms. I think last time we met, we approved the 2019 budget, where we are investing significantly more in social media marketing, which more and more as the algorithms change and the game changes a little bit is really the best way to achieve growth. So continuing those efforts in social media. Before I get into any research findings that I'm excited to share with you, anything I can answer on the marketing portion? We have two studies that I'll share with you today. The first one is our quarterly visitor tracking study conducted by Downs and St. Germain. This study shows results for springtime, so March, April, and May visitation. This might answer some of the questions as we get into some of the numbers that you had of Jason earlier, and I think we are on the right track there. For the spring season, obviously the South dominates the Southeast, our market. 2/3 of our visitors are coming from the Southeast. Last time I presented the winter visitor tracking study, there's a big shift to the Midwest and out of the South a little bit. Springtime kind of gets us back into our normal pattern of visitation that we're used to seeing, and about a quarter of it coming from the Midwest. Some of the other key findings from the spring study, probably the number that jumped out the most was that 97% plan to return to South Walton. And visitors rated a 9.3 out of 10 as a quality vacation destination. So very encouraging numbers there. The folks that are coming here are happy to be here. They're enjoying their time and planning to revisit. Top activities, restaurants and beach tied for the top, where we saw in the winter beach drop significantly and restaurants remained high. Restaurants is really the one that all 4 seasons remains number 1 and number 2. Time to relax and family time coming in at 3 and 4 there. So some numbers on the economic impact. So 15.3% increase in spending and economic impact versus the same time period of last year. Extremely encouraging. We continue to see those economic impact numbers outpacing the increase in visitation, which indicates that we're getting a more quality visitor that is willing to spend more money while they're here on vacation and contribute more to the local economy. Going back to what you were talking about during Jason's presentation, we did see a 5% decrease in room rate versus spring of last year. This is a little bit unusual for us. It's not something we've seen a whole lot. Total visitors being up and occupancy being just about flat or less than 1% change there. So we suspect that that is a result of increased inventory over the same time period last year. The big takeaway there, though, is the 15% increase in the economic impact. So very encouraging numbers there. Second study we'd like to share is an emotional positioning study that we conducted in May. This was conducted by Downs and St. Germain. Philip Downs and I traveled to Dallas and Atlanta to conduct focus groups in both of those cities with folks that met certain criteria. They had been here before. They were the primary vacation decision maker in the household. They met a minimum household income. And the idea of this study was to ascertain from these folks what emotions they felt when they visited here. What did it make them feel like to visit? And what did they feel like when they were leaving as well? The purpose of trying to get this information is to help us with our marketing messaging. If we can connect with these folks on an emotional level and see what it is that makes them feel good about coming here, we can communicate that to more future potential visitors more effectively. So we went into these focus groups. There are 10 to 12 people apiece, 2 in Dallas, 2 in Atlanta. Philip sat with them for a couple hours in each group, asked some open-ended questions, and just tried to get some information out of them. So some of the things that we took away, a lot of it we weren't surprised at. Some of it jumped out at us a little bit. This family growth and exploration through dedicated time together came up over and over again. Kind of togetherness, family time, time to connect with the family and with yourself is something that resonated in all 4 groups and continued to come up. The safety that people felt when they were here was also a positive takeaway that came up over and over again. People felt safe in the community. They felt safe on the beach. A lot of them talked about giving their kids a little bit longer of a leash on the beach than they normally would because they felt good about the people that were around them, about the environment that they were in. So great takeaway there. Very family friendly, kind of goes along with that as well, where people can interact and have shared experiences. One thing that came up quite a bit is families over the course of a week kind of befriending, say the family that's renting the house next door, the family and the kids that they see on the beach, and the families would start to kind of pair up together and share those experiences and let the kids kind of explore the other people around them, all as positive takeaways. And the last one there, total relaxation, because you're in a friendly, safe, and upscale environment. A lot of them talked about being able to unplug a little bit more, less of a dependence on the cell phone or a schedule, even compared to some vacation destinations nationwide or our immediate neighbors to the east and west. It's much less about keeping a rigorous schedule or an itinerary and more about letting the vacation come to you and leaving the cell phone in the condo while you go down to the beach that they weren't able to achieve either at home or on other vacations. A couple of other items. We talked to them about things like architecture, shopping, dining, things like the dune lakes, other amenities that we have here that make this a special place to vacation. They identified those things as kind of positive factors while they're here, maybe not so much decision makers while they're making that planning decision. When we talked about things like architecture and the dune lakes, they kind of were aware of them, not so much appreciation of the architecture necessarily or of the beauty of the dune lakes, but identified them as things that added to the overall destination and the feeling that they had when they were here. We'd consider those subliminal emotional differentiators. So as we look to our creative design and how that will be affected by some of these responses that we got and some of the consistencies that we got group after group, we'll focus on some of those things, the interaction among families, the ability to connect with your family, to detach from electronics, things like that, de-stressing a little bit. The nightlife is on there. It's an interesting one that came up. We don't think of ourselves as a nightlife destination, so Philip, during this process, kind of coaxed them on that. What types of nightlife do you enjoy? And they talked about things like going out for an ice cream cone with the kids, or going down to the beach at night to play in the sand, or hiring a bonfire company. So they really identified us as a kind of a wholesome, family-friendly atmosphere. So the nightlife kind of jumped out at us, but as we talked a little bit further through that and got some clarification, it was encouraging to hear that that's what people look forward to and feel good about when they're here on vacation. That is all I've got in a marketing and research update. I'm happy to answer any questions that you've got.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
Good morning, Council. Dawn Trumper, Director of Sales.
Morning.
Hi, how are you? We're continuing our group sales efforts. In mid-June, we hosted 2 client events in Nashville. We had attendance by corporate and association clients. We had a total of 41 clients in attendance. Our participating lodging partners were Hilton Sandestin, Hyatt Place, Sandestin, Topsail. It was a great 2 events. We did a reception and then a lunch the next day so we could capture both schedules of people depending on what their work schedules were. Marisol, our 2017 Artist of the Year, also attended. Chris Alvarado. We decided, since we were going to Music City, that we would take a local musician that was very popular, and then Great and Bear Company also attended. So we gave them the entire South Walton experience. It was a great two events. Mid-July, we sponsored the Georgia Meeting Planners International Chapter Monthly Luncheon. Through this sponsorship, we were able to do our South Walton video. We branded the room. We took promotional collateral and explained just what it was all about with South Walton. We're continuing to give these core target markets more of the South Walton experience and helping them find their perfect destination within, whether it's a corporate small meeting, executive board meeting, or a large convention. We also brought partners with us. The Pearl attended, Sandestin Golf and Beach Resort and Watercolor Inn attended as well. There were about 88 people in attendance at that event. And then at the end of July, we attended Cvent Connect. That was the first time we've been to this particular event. I had a booth share opportunity with Hilton Sandestin, and then Sandestin was in the adjacent booth with us. Really successful show. It was a 2-day event. We had 19 one-on-one appointments. I personally went, so I was putting all of the information into our system. All of those people were brand new meeting planners to our area, had never been familiar with us, and we came back with 6 really strong relationships and possible leads. So we were very excited about that opportunity as well. Upcoming, we have a PR event for the wedding media that's coming in at the end of August. And then we'll attend Connect Marketplace at the end of August. That's 2 of us going, one for corporate track and one for the association track. And those are also one-on-one appointments for 2 days. We're expecting about probably 50 appointments at that event. We recently designed and created new digital assets. These are found on our website. So what this is a meeting planner can go to our website, take these social digital banners. We also have postcards for direct mail and email templates so they can do an email blast. This actually will help promote larger attendance if you're a planner and you want to educate your attendants on the area, and also will encourage extended stays for pre or post conventions. And then for our visitor center numbers, May, we welcomed 1,535 visitors. That was up 9% from last year. June, 1,604 visitors. That was up 10% from last year. So year-to-date June, we've seen 14,351 visitors, which is a 15% increase. And then merchandise sales, $4,769 for May. That was a 49% increase year over year. And June saw $5,842, which was a 63% increase from 17. So year to date, we've sold $53,101, which is a 95% increase from last year. Any questions? Nope. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning. David Demarest, Director of Communications. Going through our year-to-date snapshot, I think you'll see a fairly huge increase over the last presentation you saw. Lots of new articles, lots of corresponding impressions. Because of the value of the articles we got, the impressions are up a little more percentage-wise than the number of articles. So that's good, marching along with the other factors as well. A lot of this is going to be due to the next slide you'll see, which we go over kind of the greatest hits. But as we continue to pitch, we're moving into fall travel. Still got the Underwater Museum of Art, and we put together a high luxury level pitch to focus that sort of attention on the area. In press trips, we've had some people down from Talkville, Alabama, Nashville Parent Pursuits with Enterprise, and those all do tend to pay off. Have a upcoming fam trip with Southern Bride Magazine. Be going up to Nashville ahead of the media mission to talk with, or ahead of the marketing activation, to speak with the media up there, and then going to New York to speak with media there a little later in the year. As far as the South Walton Expert Guide goes, we've hand-delivered to almost all of our top 25 partners. We've had all the other accommodation partners alerted through direct emails, phone calls, and it's been in the connection that goes out monthly so they've been coming by to pick those up as well. we'll start distributing those as well, hand-delivered to some of our guides that touch more of our visitors. Now, here are some of the highlights we got. National Geographic Magazine, Artful Living, Smithsonian, Boston Globe, USA Today, Coastal Living, Leisure, Travel and Leisure, Southern Living. These are great publications to be in. Really happy with all of these. A lot of them have to do with the Underwater Museum of Art. The reason that works so well as a PR story is it's wholly unique. It's a first. It makes a lot of sense for our area. So it kind of combines what you already think about South Walton as far as ecology, beach-centered, and art-centered. So that's one of the reasons that project's performing as well as it is. Several of the other ones came from previous FAM trips that we've hosted. So when we've brought journalists down, they do, as I mentioned, provide good coverage for us, and that can go on. It's not always just one story. It goes on throughout the year. Got in some meeting publications, which we always try to get in there. The only thing that we were a little off on this time was we were a little lower on our event coverage. We try to get in the events as well, because that's just an easy way to get going, but we didn't have a lot of events coming up immediately. They were promoting it being summertime, so expect to see that pick up again for fall coverage. Here's the clippings, the way some of these looked. Again, Travel and Leisure, Sport Diver, great publications to be in. Here's some of the other ones, including Boston Globe. And we're really hitting all the spots that we want to hit there. And that is my roundup for communications right now. You guys have any questions for me?
Well done.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you, Dave.
Brian, it's you again.
Yes, sir. Got a lot of podium time today. Hopefully some less controversial subjects in beach operations. All righty, moving forward. I'd like to say that I've done a successful job in creating harmony on the beach, but that job has gotten much tougher over the last couple of months. Beach maintenance, garbage in May, we were slightly down from the year before. Garbage in June, slightly up from the year before. Leave No Trace program, both months for May and June, up considerably in June. That follows a trend that we see during the summer. People come here with beach gear that they buy that they consider disposable, and we gather a lot of it off the beach. Multi-use path repair replacement, section between 283 and Western Lake we spoke about earlier. We're waiting on this pending easement. Wooden bridge repair replace. This is a project we started in previous budget years. We replaced the bridges along this section from 283 to 83, and now we have a few more to do at Deer Lake and Eastern Lake and at Draper Lake. We'll be asking the Board of County Commissioners to approve those issuance of invitations to bid at our meeting on the 14th, and we'll move forward with those projects during the what little off-season we have. We can replace those bridges fairly quickly in most of those cases. So we'll do them one at a time so as not to impede traffic all the way down the bike path, and try to set up some alternative methods to get around. In some cases, it's just going to have to be closed periodically. The existing beach access renovations, the projects that were funded in FY 2016, we have got those 100% designed and permitted. We'll be asking the BCC for approval to issue those invitations to bids, and I'd say about 14 MBAs and 2 RBAs, and so we'll do those in the off season. We may do a couple, or some of them this year and some of them next off season. We don't want to close down a bunch of accesses at one time, and like I say, we'll get those bid out and constructed during the off season. The FY 2017 funded projects, we're very close to getting those designed and permitted, or the completion of that phase of it, and we'll go to the BCC at those more than likely in the fall of 2019 is when we'll start those. So we got started on this early. We recognize it's going to take a long time. We took a different route on permitting as opposed to field permits. We did administrative permits through FDEP, and we realized it would take some time to get all that work done. we've got it done now, and we'll start constructing these as money and time permits. New beach access, so we have 3 new regional beach accesses we bought property for. Dune Allen one is very close to getting started construction. Miramar Beach, we have got a conceptual design approval, and we're moving forward with design, development, and permitting. Take about 8 months on that, and then we'll probably start construction soon after that. Seagrove Beach will be coming back to the BCC for conceptual design approval on the 14th. We brought it forward to them at the previous meeting, but we had 2 conceptual designs. The board asked us to confer with FDEP as to the viability of one of them. We've done that. We'll present that information to the BCC on the 14th. Beach maintenance updates. Okay, big question. Effects of House Bill 631 and Gulffront property owners, the few that have issued a cease and desist demand letter. Garbage collection on private. BCC directed us to discontinue garbage collection on 8/13, so we're gearing up for that. They also gave us opportunity to revisit with the Gulffront property owners that had sent these letters through our legal department. We've done that. Few of them have rescinded their demand letters, and we'll be presenting some information to the Board of County Commissioners on the 14th of some opportunities we have to maybe collect some of that garbage that we thought we were not going to be able to collect. Public garbage on our regional beach accesses, it'll remain the same on the regional beach accesses. Neighborhood beach accesses will we're looking at moving some of those garbage collection stations to the top of the boardwalk in some of the heavily congested areas where we can't get our trucks off the road adequately. Where we can get them off the road easily, we'll continue to leave garbage collection stations at the foot of the boardwalk, and we'll just change our ways of how we collect garbage. Hopefully, as we progress through this customary use process, we'll get back to collecting garbage on the beach like we have done for 30 plus years. This is a map. I know you can't read it. It's very small scale. This is actually printed on a 24 by 36 format, but it gives an indication of the areas that were affected. I'll be glad to send it to you via PDF, and you can then zoom in as much as you'd like. Beach maintenance updates continued. Flagpoles. A lot of our flagpoles are on private property. We're looking at the ones that we can get to and the ones we can't get to, and we may be relocating some of those to public property, or relocating some of them further upland in the dune system so that we can access them from the top. Holes on the beach, we'll have to discontinue filling in holes on private property. We'll continue to get them on public property that we can get to. South Walton Turtle Watch will continue their work as they've been doing. They have some provisions within their state permit that allows them to monitor turtle nests on private property. Volunteer Beach Ambassador Program that's headed up by Laurie Reichenbeck. They've already changed their ways of how they traverse the beach, east and west, and they're still doing a good job. They're just staying low down below the main high water line and the erosion control line. Both those groups don't get much opposition, but they are, people that work within, or we work, with each other. So we've asked them to be aware and modify their ways accordingly. Beach code enforcement, May contacts 961, June contacts 1,179, about standard for this time of year. Some of the items we enforce, won't go through the details with you too much. You can look at them in your book, and if you want the full report, well, actually, you all get the full report every month anyway. If you got any questions about it, feel free to call me or email me. But we're seeing about the same as we before. Dogs trended down slightly on compliance. Bonfires trended up, 92-94% compliance rate. That means our vendors are doing a good job on bonfires. Leave no trace vendors, once again, 14 contacts in May, 22 in June, pretty small compared to the amount of product on the beach. Miscellaneous vendor contacts, 48 and 68, once again, very small contact ratio compared to the amount of vendors and product put on the beach. Updates for the effects of 631, the Gulfront property owners on beach code enforcement. Proactive code enforcement on private property will be by complaint only by the property owner. We'll traverse those areas below the main high water line. We're gonna have to change the ways we do it. So we have ATVs. We also have the ability to walk. One problem that brings up is our connectivity to our database. One of the main tenets of our code enforcement activity is we have to give a person a notice of violation and an opportunity to correct that activity. And so, therefore, we have to know if we've encountered them before. And so that's what our database does for us. Whenever we encounter somebody, we enter the information, any subsequent contact, we can look it up real quickly and determine if we've encountered them before, and therefore we can give them a ticket or even a subsequent ticket that has more monetary fine value. Reactive code enforcement, private property, once again, the reactive is by complaint only. Public property will continue to do like we have. We'll be on the beach patrolling and taking points. Leave No Trace program has changed slightly. Previously, I was given permission to do that with our beach maintenance department by traversing the beach every night and collecting items that are left on the sandy portion of the beach. Now we're doing that, we still do the same way on public property. We collect that with beach maintenance personnel. On private property, we're doing it with our beach code enforcement department, which is the way we used to do it prior to our beach maintenance department. And we have to give a notice of violation, and then we check back, 24 hours later, if we can get back there and encounter a person using the equipment. At that point, we can then mete out enforcement action. Really, the probability of finding that person again is fairly slim. So the result is you're probably going to experience more Leave No Trace items on private property. Wildlife Land Protection Zone impacted some. We'll do the best we can traversing below the main high water line and the erosion control line at night. Department updates. Beach Code Enforcement Annual Activity Report compilation is coming up, and beach-related code reviews. Every year we go through this process. So our destination and beach management committees will be offering input in September meetings. After that, we'll reach out to this council and ask them to review the report and offer up code review or code revisions. We'll be scheduling our beach vendor postseason meetings and a public workshop to discuss possible beach-related code revisions. BCE, Beach Code Enforcement Vehicle Update. We have received our Jeeps in and getting them accessorized with the stuff we put on them, and we're also looking at some graphics. We previously started a graphic design process, been kind of vetting it out between different people. In there, you have a copy of what we're thinking about, fairly indiscreet. That's our, we call our medallion. We use it on stickers and coasters. And then the Beach Code Enforcement label on the back quarter panel. So.
Brian, you didn't tint the windows on those Jeeps, did you?
No, sir, not. And we'll be,
Just
like I
checking.
say, I told you in the past, we're going to be changing our tint on our trucks. So we'll do that. And any vehicle moving forward will have.
I think it makes them, we talked about it before, it makes them so much
Yeah.
more user-friendly.
Right.
Just checking.
Yes, sir. No, don't worry. Any questions about the graphics or anything? Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I'm very concerned about the decision to discontinue garbage collection on private beaches. Our program in the county has been very successful for a very long time. A clean beach is a clean beach. A dirty beach is a dirty beach. Our community, our homeowners, and our guests aren't going to differentiate that line between public and private. They're not. So I think we need to re-engage. I would like to motion that this board approve a recommendation to the Board of County Commissioners that Walton County recommit to the removal of trash and beach maintenance for all beaches, public and private, subject to accessibility. I think this is a big mistake for tourism, not to take care of our beaches, protect our beaches, ensure they're safe, and they're presentable for all, 365 days a year. So that's my motion.
I'd like to make a comment, if I can.
as would I.
My comment is simply this, and I'll let you speak. My comment is that,
Was there a second, Mr. Chairman?
pardon me?
Was there a second?
No, we're just discussing right
In
now.
that discussion, we move this motion forward without a second.
Okay.
Second.
If somebody wishes to second for the purpose of discussion, it's a limited second, that can be done. Otherwise, you have to have that.
Thanks for keeping me straight this morning, sir. What a mess we would be in without you. All right, we have a motion and a second. The only comment I want to make is that it seems to me like the tail is wagging the dog. We have, 22 private owners that are dictating the cleanliness of our beaches, your accessibility to get to public areas, our inability to get to public areas. And it's just, ever since this has happened, it's just driving me crazy. And I couldn't agree with Mike more. Tony, go ahead.
Mark, I agree with you, except one thing. We legally can't do it. We're working with DEP, we've talked to them, we're trying to work with the governor's office to do this, but legally, they have our hands tied. My gut feeling is say, the heck with it, we're gonna do it anyway. But from a position of protecting the county, I have to do what the legal department says I have to do, just as we had to follow Mr. Atkinson's advice.
Let me clarify that, Mr. Commissioner Anderson, because that was one of my questions. Is it your motion that it would be where accessible? Because if it's limited, if he means where accessible, my opinion to you legally, and understand, I'm not the attorney representing the board in that suit, would be that qualification would necessarily apply where we legally can access it. I would imply legal accessibility there, because obviously we can access anything, we just choose to go to the property. I believe the implication was legal accessibility. In that case, I think that's fine. Otherwise, I would say up front, I don't believe we can entertain this motion, because I don't think BCC would even be able to receive this motion from us given the status of the litigation.
And if I'm not mistaken, Brian, aren't we collecting trash where we can legally collect trash?
Yes, sir. So right now, the direction we received was, the direction we received from the BCC was to collect garbage until the August 13th. So that's what we're doing. Also, at those previous meetings, you instructed, or the board instructed legal department to reach back out to the people that had sent the demand letters, and they did. And some of those people rescinded those letters. And so what that has done is it's altered our map that we presented at the previous meeting, where it showed where we were prohibited from reaching, and now we have some areas that we can reach. And so that's what we'll be presenting to you on the 14th for review and consideration to do. So I think the motion he made and what Mr. Atkinson added is legal accessibility, as I think that it's a good
Since
motion.
you're gonna hear that on August 14th anyway, Commissioner, I think that would be within the TDC's purview.
Well, my understanding was that we were going to continue to collect trash where we could legally collect it. That shouldn't have ever stopped, or should never stop.
My understanding is that Sandestin has been given notification of discontinuation of service.
Right.
I know there was one party that wanted to restrict access, that's been rescinded, and I would
Yeah.
hope that that service support would continue for such beachfront property as is the case in this instance at Sandestin. You know, our goal is to maintain clean beaches.
Mhm.
And again, it's been a collaborative effort, and for that to discontinue as of 8/14 would be problematic.
Yes,
And
sir.
not in our best interest as a community.
Right. I believe the review of the committee, of the meeting minutes from the last Board County Commission meeting was to stop garbage on all private property on 8/13.
Well, then we need to
That was the direction that staff was given.
correct that. My understanding was it was just on property we couldn't reach, but I'll make that motion at the next meeting.
Okay. So I think you have a motion that's been modified slightly, and then a second.
No, the motion's not modified, I believe that's the way he said it. I just
Right.
want to
Yes,
make sure
it
that
is.
he was actually implying only where legally accessible, that legal is the implication. And if so, I think that's at least something that the BCC can legally entertain now. Legal counsel may tell them, no, there's a reason why you shouldn't, but
There also may be property where we have permission to pick it up, but we have no access to.
Correct.
And, so, you know, that's the concern of the county, that if we give a blanket, say, pick up where legally we have the right, we may not have the access.
Right.
The motion says legally accessible.
Okay, legally accessible.
I would say legally and logistically accessible.
That's the terminology.
Okay.
Yeah, legal access implies you have grant of permission and a way to access the property.
Okay, we have a motion, and do we have a second? Okay. Is there any other discussion from the council members? Anybody from the public want to make a comment? Yes, no, just on this issue. Seeing none, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries.
Thank you, Chairman. That concludes my updates.
Brian, thank you very much. Bonnie, did you want to speak on that?
No, we just don't.
Hello again. I'm back with just a couple of quick updates. We talked about strategic planning, I guess at the last meeting, and so we are working on that, working on getting our request for quotes out. So we've been talking to purchasing and legal departments, and so we hope to have that out this week. And I have a rough timeline of what we're looking at for strategic planning, roughly probably about middle of September to about March. Should be about a 6-month window. Once we get it finalized with purchasing and legal, I'll be reaching out to you guys individually to start checking schedules of what will work best for everybody so we can get some meetings scheduled. But just kind of wanted to give you an update where we are with that and that we're working on it, and you'll be hearing from me, like I said, probably in the next week to try to start scheduling something. So,
Jay?
Yes, sir?
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
You say somewhere between October and March.
Correct.
We're gonna have a board transition.
We
Or
will.
A council.
We will.
board
So we're
transition.
gonna begin with this council, because I think it's important that we have some people who have been on this council for a long time and they can provide a lot of insight. So we're gonna begin the process with this seated council, and then obviously it takes some time to wrap it up. So we're gonna wrap it up with another council, unfortunately, but with the timing that we have, I think that it's prudent that we at least begin the process with folks who have been on this council for 2 terms. And have a lot of information they can provide and a lot of input and insight they can provide.
I agree with you. Thank you for clarifying that.
Sure. And then the reason why you might ask why it takes so long is there's lots of public meetings that have to take place. So it's not just the council, but we also invite our industry partners and the public as a whole, the community, to come in and participate in the strategic planning process. So that just takes time to get all those meetings done. We're looking at probably about series of 4 public meetings. So it just takes some time.
I just want to make a comment, if I may, while you're talking about strategic, and it doesn't require a resolution or anything. I just would like to ask you to put on the agenda for the strategic planning is garbage in South Walton. I think it's something that, it's been a thorn in my side for, I guess, 15 years now. But I think there's some solutions out there that I've researched that may work well. And it would probably entail the county, the TDC, but also the owners of the rental properties.
Right.
And so I'm just asking you to put that on the agenda, if you would, for the strategic planning.
I absolutely will. And then you'll also all have an opportunity to look at kind of what I put together and then provide your feedback. And just in this instance with the garbage collection, if there's some other things that you'd like to see that's not on there, you'll have an opportunity to present that information back to me.
I had to get it on the record. Thank you for letting me do that.
And then, so that's for strategic planning. And then I wanted just to share some news with some transition for staff and then also some new staff members. We have quite a few promotions within the TDC, so I'm happy to say that Lisa Foster, unfortunately, will be departing as my assistant, and she's been so great working with me over the past couple of years, but she is now going to be our industry relations specialist. So she's actually started the transition to that role, and when we hire her replacement probably within the next 3 or 4 weeks, she'll be moving on to her new role. So congratulations to Lisa. she's going to do an amazing job. When she first came to talk to me, I said, I don't want to hold anybody back. I said, I'll miss you as my assistant if you were to get the job. I said, but you would be fantastic at it. So it just happened that she got the job, and I'm really excited for her. I think she's going to do a great job for us. A couple other promotions. James Lorenz, who was in beach maintenance, he's now in code enforcement officer. Wayne Wright was promoted to crew leader. And then we have 4 new beach maintenance specialists, Jose Figueroa, Jacob Tomanowski, I probably slaughtered that last name, Donald Lorenz, and then Charles Kessler. So welcome to all of our new staffers over the past couple of months since the last TDC meeting. I just will say real quick in talking about staff, we have a great staff at the TDC. They do a phenomenal job in the various capacities in which they serve. We really are a unique organization in that, you think about code enforcement, beach maintenance, beach ambassadors, visitor information folks, then office staff who are working on promoting, marketing, communications, sales. It truly is a very diverse workforce. And we're really fortunate that we have a great workforce and we're able to get a lot accomplished at the TDC. And I am now into my 3rd year with the TDC, and I'm really excited about where we are as an organization. I think we've made a lot of progress in the past few years, and I want to see that continue. And I know some of you guys are going to be rotating off, and I've really enjoyed working with you. And we still have a few more meetings, and I'm looking forward to the strategic planning process that we can really look at the future of not just the organization, but where we want tourism and the county to go from a tourism standpoint. I'm really excited about the strategic planning process. I think it's going to be a great opportunity for us.
I want to say congratulations on making it to your 3rd year.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I work hard at that, to be honest with you, and so I'm excited about it. So anyway.
So are we.
Yeah. Any questions for me?
No.
Great.
Congratulations.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, now I got, any comments from council members at this time? Seeing none. Any public comments? Bonnie? Good morning again.
Good morning. Bonnie McQuiston. I'm going to throw a couple of comments in I hadn't planned to make. First of all, I spoke when Brad Drake had that big thing at the high school about customary use and so on. Wouldn't it be interesting to know if you all, the county declared eminent domain of the entire 26 miles of beach that we have, the value, what would that cost? Because I'll have to tell you, Patrick Pilcher told me, because I asked him the question, when these people are getting these quiet titles and more land and more property, are you going out and reassessing, reappraising their property? Are they going to pay extra taxes? He said, no. The sand has no value. We don't appraise the sand. They keep paying the same taxes. I don't know. It's just a crazy thought I had just now listening that, if you declared eminent domain and you had to buy it, what would it be? How would they put a price on it? Anyway, that's in what I plan to speak on. So the next thing I want to say is thank you. Thank you to Jay and Brian and Chan for that beautiful bike path between Grayton Beach and Blue Mountain Beach. And it's a lovely, and the siding on both sides and on the north side, and the benches, the little benches. If you haven't driven that, go look at it. It is beautiful, and I really thank them and appreciate it. Okay, thank you. Now, something that Brian was talking about feeds into some of my questions. Today, where 2 or more people gather in social events or dinners, it's all about the beach. We all talk about the beach, and there are a lot of questions, and we don't have answers. So I thought I'd come this morning to get answers from the people who have the answers. And Brian mentioned that they can't control, the poles on the private property now, so my question is going to be, what authority does the county have or the TDC have in code enforcement for when you say everything has to be removed at night, tents have to come down, chairs? Does that apply to the private? Do we have authority on the private property? Or what do you do?
And Ms. McQuiston,
Yeah.
step in there, and unfortunately, you're going to be unhappy with this answer. I don't believe it would be appropriate for the TDC to answer that question today, nor do I believe it would be appropriate for myself in my capacity as special counsel to the board, serving only as the TDC attorney, to give my legal opinion on that. I'm not part of the customary use litigation team, therefore TDC meeting, although I would expect that the issue you're gonna get is, the legal team's not gonna give a legal opinion right now while we're in litigation. All of that may be something that has to be sorted out. So I'm sorry to give the lawyer answer, I'm sorry, TDC, to not let you answer that question, but I just can't let an arm of the county make any statement that could compromise a variety of different lawsuits around.
Okay, thank you. Well, the reason I came to you today is I think you all have code enforcement. Doesn't the TDC have its own code enforcement?
The county has code enforcement, we help fund some of those officers, we don't run code enforcement.
Oh, okay, so the codes that the county makes are enforced by the code enforcement with TDC and so on. Okay. But it appears, and it is a good question. I mean, if we have these ordinances, whether it's tents or chairs or holes, 6 feet wide and 6 feet deep, if it does it apply, can you enforce it on, and I know you can't answer today, but the question is, can it be enforced on the state park property? Can it be enforced on private property? So I'll have to come to this BCC is what he's telling me to ask those questions, correct?
I feel that would be the best place to get that answer because, to be quite candid, Mr. Quiston, the TDC has not involved itself in the customary use aspect. We have no ability to regulate that.
Well,
we've been completely removed from that issue. And while I know many of the people on this board, I would expect all of them have some level of knowledge of customary use because it affects their industries, that's not something they've been briefed on by staff or had an opportunity to have legal advice given to them directly, aside from Commissioner Anderson, who received his capacity as a commissioner. And of course, whether or not his attorney wishes to talk about that in a public meeting will be up to her.
Okay, well, I came to you for answers, and I'll have to go to somebody else for answers. Okay, quickly. I appreciate the fact that there won't be as much driving on the beach, and I was saying with the diminished area for public use, it'd be nice not to have big ruts everywhere. But anyway, so I really, Brian, thank you for saying you're going to try to get that garbage collected from the top down. Now, last of all, you do make the ordinance, but you do write ordinances, and you did work on the tent ordinance, I think. Does it?
No, ma'am. The TDC does not propose ordinances. We don't write ordinances. We've seen ordinances, but the BCC is the one who can act.
Okay, well, then I was going to ask about banning tents. Okay, I was going to ask about banning, but so I'll have to come from BCC. Okay, real quickly, and I'm finished, Richard, but do Bay County and Okaloosa County, do they have tents? Does anyone else ban tents?
I don't know.
That we know of?
I don't know the answer.
Okay, well, I'm sorry I took up your time. Thank you very much.
You didn't. Thank you, Bonnie.
Thank you.
All right. I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks.
Well done. Thank you.
Send you the check next week. Good job. All right.
Tim?
What's going on? Y'all doing anything in Destiny? All the road work going on? You got properties down there?
We do. We've got a couple of properties that we're, in pre-development. We're trying to get going. So we got a couple of cool things. Yeah.
So I guess Jay's the new guy for you guys that's working the properties?
Jay.
Is he the real estate guy for you? Howard Group? Somebody told me they talked to him.
Well, somebody mentioned Jay.
Yeah.
Might have been Jay Howard.
Jay, yeah.